There's a moment right now happening on thousands of screens around the world where a person is about to type their password and something else is already watching them do it. Not a hacker sitting behind them, not someone peering over their shoulder in a coffee shop. Something quieter, something already inside the machine, waiting for the exact second their fingers touch the keys. And here is the part almost nobody understands. By the time most people realize it happened, it is already too late. The password is gone, the account is gone, and in some cases, so is the money. This is not a hypothetical. This is one of the most active, most underreported forms of digital theft happening in 2026. A threat that security researchers have been quietly tracking as it evolves faster than most antivirus software can keep up with. It is called a keylogger. And what makes it terrifying is not just what it does, it is how invisible it has become. Think about what that means for a second. A tool that can sit inside your phone or your laptop, recording every single keystroke you make, your banking password, your email login, your two-factor codes as you type them in, and send that information to a stranger on the other side of the planet without a single visible sign that anything is wrong. No pop-up, no warning, no flashing icon, just silence. And in that silence, your entire digital identity is being copied, key by key, letter by letter. Here is where it gets worse. According to threat researchers who track this space closely, keyloggers are no longer just simple programs that log what you type. The newest versions, operating in 2026, are far more sophisticated. Some of them do not even need to record your keyboard at all. Instead, they use something called API-level tracking, silently capturing the exact coordinates where you click on a virtual on-screen keyboard. That means even the workaround people have used for years, clicking password characters instead of typing them, is no longer the safety net most people believe it to be. Read that again. The very technique millions of people trust to protect themselves from keyloggers is being quietly defeated by a newer generation of malware built specifically to beat it. So how does something like this get onto a device in the first place? This is where the real story begins to unfold, and it is not what most people expect. The common assumption is that you have to do something reckless. Visit a shady website, download something illegal, click on an obviously fake link from a stranger. But the truth, according to current threat intelligence, is far more unsettling. Keyloggers are now being delivered through some of the most ordinary digital moments imaginable. A fake software update prompt, a cracked version of a popular application, a browser extension that looks completely legitimate, or an email that appears to come from someone the victim already knows and trusts. That last one matters more than people realize. Security analysts have observed that phishing attempts are no longer crude, poorly written scams anyone could spot. Attackers are compromising real email accounts and real social media profiles first, then using those trusted identities to deliver the payload. Which means the email that plants a keylogger on your device might not come from a stranger at all. It might come from someone you already know, because their account was breached before yours ever was. This is not chaos. This is strategy. And the strategy does not stop at how the infection begins. Once a keylogger is inside a system, it does something far more calculated than simply recording everything blindly. Modern keyloggers have been engineered to wait, to watch, to filter. According to cybersecurity researchers, some of the more advanced variants are programmed to recognize patterns, specifically watching for the moment a user types an email address followed by the @ symbol, because that pattern almost always signals a login sequence is about to happen. The keylogger does not waste its effort logging everything you type all day. It waits for the exact seconds that matter, the seconds when your username and password are being entered, and it captures those seconds with surgical precision. Think about what that means. This is not blunt, indiscriminate surveillance. This is a targeted extraction system, engineered to identify the single most valuable moment in your entire digital session, and strike exactly then. But here is where it gets worse. Some of the more advanced keyloggers being tracked in the current threat landscape do not stop at your keyboard at all. They are capable of taking rapid screenshots at random intervals, capturing your entire screen. Which means, even if you never type a password because you copy and paste it from a password manager, the malware can still see it appear on screen. Some variants go even further, quietly activating a device's microphone or camera, turning a simple credential stealing tool into a much broader surveillance instrument. What started as a program built to catch your password can, in its more advanced forms, become a window directly into your private life. This is the part that should genuinely concern people, and it rarely gets said out loud. Keyloggers are not just a personal privacy issue anymore. According to security researchers, they have become one of the most devastating tools available for something far bigger: industrial espionage. Inside businesses, a single infected employee device can allow an attacker to quietly collect administrative passwords, internal strategy documents, and proprietary data over the course of weeks or even months without triggering a single alarm. No ransom note, no obvious breach, just silence. while confidential information bleeds out of the organization, one keystroke at a time. And this is where the story shifts from personal risk to something with far larger consequences. When a keylogger infiltrates a business network, it is rarely about stealing one person's Netflix password. It is about reaching the administrative credentials that control entire systems. Once an attacker has those, they are no longer an outsider. They are functionally an insider, with legitimate-looking access to move through a network undetected, escalate their privileges, and position themselves for something far more damaging than credential theft alone. What most people are not seeing is how this connects to a much larger pattern in modern cyber attacks. Keyloggers are rarely the final weapon. They are the entry point. The real story is that stolen credentials captured through keylogging are frequently the opening move in larger, more coordinated intrusions. The quiet first step that later leads to ransomware deployment, data exfiltration, or long-term network compromise. In other words, by the time most victims realize their password was stolen, the keylogger may have already done its job. The real damage often comes later from whatever that stolen access was used to unlock. Now think about the delivery methods again, because this is where the danger becomes personal instead of abstract. According to current cybersecurity research, one of the most well-documented keylogger campaigns in recent years specifically targeted travelers using unsecured hotel Wi-Fi networks. The attack worked by presenting guests with what looked like a completely normal software update prompt the moment they connected to the network. Trusting travelers, exhausted from their trip and eager to get online, clicked accept, and within seconds, a keylogger was installed and quietly began transmitting their keystrokes back to the attackers. After collecting enough data, the malware would erase itself entirely, leaving almost nothing behind for investigators to trace. Sit with that for a moment. A hotel room, a Wi-Fi network, a software update prompt that looked completely ordinary. That is all it took. No dramatic hacking scene, no visible red flags, just a tired traveler doing something millions of people do every single day without thinking twice. And this is where everything changes, because the question stops being, how do I avoid obviously dangerous websites, and becomes something far more uncomfortable. How do you defend yourself against a threat specifically engineered to look completely normal? According to the researchers actively tracking this threat landscape in 2026, there are warning signs, but they are subtle, and most people miss them because they do not look like a cyber attack. Unexplained slowdowns in device performance, background processes running for no clear reason, login alerts from accounts you did not just try to access, unfamiliar password reset emails you never requested. Each one on its own feels minor, easy to dismiss, easy to explain away as my phone is just getting old or that email was probably spam. But taken together, according to threat intelligence teams, these small signals are often the only visible trace a keylogger leaves behind before it does serious damage. This is exactly why the danger is so effective. It does not announce itself. It does not want to be noticed. Its entire design philosophy is built around staying invisible for as long as possible because every additional day it remains undetected is another day of stolen data flowing quietly to whoever's on the other end. So who is on the other end? This is where the picture becomes genuinely unsettling. Keyloggers are not always deployed by lone hackers working out of a basement for quick financial gain, although that absolutely happens. According to security researchers, keylogging tools have also been documented as part of coordinated campaigns with far more strategic objectives, targeting specific industries, specific organizations, and in some documented cases, individuals of interest to more sophisticated threat actors, including state-linked groups. The tool itself is simple in concept, but the intent behind its deployment can range from petty financial theft all the way up to long-term espionage operations against high-value targets. Think about what that spectrum actually means. The same basic technology, a program that quietly records what you type, can be used by a small-time criminal trying to steal a few $100s from your bank account, or by a far more resourced and patient actor trying to extract sensitive information from a government contractor, a journalist, an executive, or anyone whose digital access might be valuable to someone else. The tool does not change. Only the intent behind it does. And from the outside, as a victim, you often have no way of knowing which version of this threat you are actually facing until the consequences start to show up. Now here is where the story takes a turn that most people never consider. If keyloggers are this dangerous, this stealthy, and this widespread, why isn't everyone talking about them the way they talk about ransomware or major data breaches? The answer, according to those who study this space, is almost more disturbing than the threat itself. Keyloggers rarely make headlines because they rarely produce a dramatic, visible event. There's no locked screen demanding payment, no public database leak with millions of records. Just quiet, incremental theft that unfolds one login at a time, one account at a time, often never reported because the victim never fully realizes what happened or assumes it was simply bad luck, a coincidence, a random hack, nothing more. This is precisely why the threat continues to grow. It does not need to be dramatic to be devastating. It only needs to be patient. So what can actually be done about something built this deliberately to avoid detection? This is where the story shifts from warning to strategy, because according to current security guidance, the defense against keyloggers is not a single silver bullet. It is a layered set of habits, each one closing off a different way the malware can succeed. Multi-factor authentication stands out as one of the most consistently recommended defenses, and here is exactly why it matters so much. Even if a keylogger successfully captures your password, character by character, a second authentication step, a code sent to your phone, a biometric confirmation, an authenticator app, creates a barrier the stolen password alone cannot cross. It does not stop the keylogger from stealing the password, but it can stop that stolen password from becoming a stolen account. Password managers offer another critical layer of protection, and the reasoning behind this is more precise than most people assume. When credentials are autofilled by a password manager rather than manually typed, there is far less for a basic keylogger to capture in the first place, because the keystrokes recording your actual password simply never happen. It is not a perfect defense against the most advanced screen capturing variants of this malware, but against the far more common, simpler keyloggers still circulating widely, it removes the exact behavior the malware is designed to exploit. Keeping software updated matters more than most people give it credit for, precisely because so many keylogger infections do not rely on tricking a user into doing something reckless. They rely on exploiting known vulnerabilities in outdated operating systems, browsers, or applications, flaws that have already been identified and already have fixes available, sitting unused on devices that simply haven't been updated. In other words, some of the most damaging infections in 2026 are not the result of some brilliant, unstoppable new hacking technique. They are the result of a security patch that was available and simply never installed. And then there's the human element, which according to nearly every major security research team remains the single most exploited weakness in this entire threat landscape. Phishing emails, fake software updates, malicious attachments disguised as something routine, compromised social media accounts sending links that look completely trustworthy because they are, in fact, coming from an account the victim already trusts. No piece of software alone can fully close this gap. Awareness, genuine ongoing awareness of how these attacks actually unfold, remains one of the few defenses capable of stopping an infection before it ever begins. But here is the deeper, more uncomfortable truth sitting underneath all of this. Even with every recommended precaution in place, multi-factor authentication, password managers, updated software, cautious behavior, the reality is that this threat continues to evolve specifically to defeat those precautions. The same researchers documenting these defenses are also documenting the malware being engineered to bypass them. Fileless keyloggers that inject themselves directly into a device's memory, leaving none of the traditional traces antivirus software is built to detect. Malicious browser extensions capable of capturing information directly from web forms, sidestepping password managers entirely. This is not a static threat that, once defended against, simply goes away. It is an ongoing, evolving contest, and right now in 2026, it is not clear which side is winning. Think about what that really means for the average person going about their daily digital life. Every login, every banking session, every email checked from a phone on public Wi-Fi. Every one of those ordinary moments is a potential opportunity for something silent to be watching, waiting for the exact sequence of characters that unlocks access to a piece of someone's life. Not in a dramatic, cinematic hacking scene. In the mundane, unremarkable seconds of everyday digital existence, the seconds nobody thinks twice about, because nothing about them feels dangerous. And this is precisely why the warning at the center of this story matters so much. It is not really about a single malicious tool. It is about a much bigger, more uncomfortable question. How much of our daily digital behavior happens on pure, unexamined trust? Trust that the update prompt is real. Trust that the email is from who it claims to be. Trust that the Wi-Fi network is safe. Trust that nothing is watching while we type the one string of characters that protects everything else. What most people are not seeing is that this trust has become the primary vulnerability of the modern digital age. Not a flaw in the software, but a flaw in the assumption that everything around us is exactly what it appears to be. So where does this leave us? The tools to defend against this threat exist. The knowledge of how it operates is becoming clearer with every new piece of research published. And yet the infections continue, the campaigns continue, and the silent theft of credentials continues to happen every single day, largely unnoticed, largely unreported, largely misunderstood by the people it affects most. Because the truth is, the greatest strength this threat has is not technical sophistication. It is patience. It is the willingness to sit quietly inside a device, undetected, for as long as it takes, waiting for the one moment that matters. And that leaves an uncomfortable question hanging over everything that has just been described. If the most dangerous version of this threat is not the one that announces itself, but the one that never does, how many of the accounts, the passwords, the private moments people assume are secure right now are actually being watched already, silently, without a single sign to give it away? Nobody watching this can answer that with certainty. And that uncertainty, more than any statistic or warning sign, might be the most unsettling part of this entire story.